members of the press work for the Democratic Party, and the Lawfare blog has been one of them. I mean, they've been, every day there's some new attack out, and so I don't put a lot of credibility into what they say. The fact of the matter is that you have to present verified information to the court. And let's not forget, to open up a counterintelligence investigation to a campaign, unprecedented, but then to use these invasive types of capabilities on an American citizen that should be very, very seldom used. In this case, not only did they use it, but they used it with information from the other candidate's campaign, and it wasn't verified.
Well, what they said about Steele, what they put in the application is that there was reason to trust him. They don't refer to him by name.
Yeah.
Source number one. So they said, well, there's reason that he's credible because other information source number one had given us had led to criminal convictions. Is that not good enough for you?
That is not.
Why?
Well, it's absolutely not the case. I mean, if we're going to go to secret courts, and first of all, I believe it doesn't even follow the rules and regulations. Just because a source was good in one case doesn't mean that the next time they're going to bring information forward that it's not going to be, that it doesn't have to be verified. This is a secret court. That information must be vetted and verified.
But they didn't name a number of other people, and we have a full page of the application that we'll put up on the screen, but there were a lot of people who weren't named. So there were candidate number one, candidate number two, source number one, source number two, and you can see it in the actual, in the actual application.
And that's why they really had to use like word puzzles to get to how they described in that footnote where they supposedly told the court that it was paid for by the Democrats and that it was possibly, they speculate it could be partisan.
Well, they didn't say that specifically. They said in opposition to the president, correct?
That's correct.
Right.
But they could have easily said that it was paid for by candidate number two.
And they did not say that. Why?
I believe because that's crazy. I mean, can you imagine, do we live in a country today? Well, I guess we do actually live in a country because this actually did happen, but where we can just go hire, private, former contractors to go out and in this case, a British, former British agent to go dig up dirt on your opponent, take it to the FBI and DOJ that you control, feed it into them so that they can open up a counterintelligence investigation without any defense there, without any grand jury, and go and get all of your communications. And look, that's why they wanted to have Carter Page. That's why they wanted all of his electronic communications. Like, I keep hearing this argument, well, it wasn't until after he was off the campaign. In the FISA application itself, it says that they believe he's the guy that's running this collusion effort. Yeah. So clearly they think he's still involved in the campaign, and clearly this guy had his rights abused.
Well, Marco Rubio actually made that point. Let's watch.
I don't think they did anything wrong. I think they went to the court. They got the judges to approve it. They laid out all the information, and there was a lot of reasons unrelated to the dossier for why they wanted to look at Carter Page. And Carter Page was not a key member of the Trump campaign, and the Trump campaign has said that.
So it was one element, but he said the FBI didn't do anything wrong. Russia did something wrong. And
we're all entitled to our own opinions, and I'm a big fan of the senator. But in this case, we have followed this very closely. And you're suggesting he hasn't? Well, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that
he's pretty definitive. He said they didn't do anything wrong.
It's clear that if this is the way the FISA courts are going to behave, if this is that you can take political dirt, open up investigations into political campaigns, this is how a democratic republic falls apart. It's just unacceptable.
That's not an overstatement.
Nobody in their right mind, and if the shoe was on the other foot, right down the street here, you would have protests in the street, cars being blocked, fires in the street, tires being burnt, and I guarantee you all the heads would have rolled already at FBI and DOJ, and you'd have all the major newspaper, all the major media saying what a crime this was that this happened.
Was that footnote a CYA footnote for the so they can say, look, we referenced this. This was someone who didn't like candidate number one. We referenced it because they did go out of the way to put that in the footnote.
Yeah,
that is very interesting.
And that's why it's so. That's why I think you make a very good point. And this is what I was trying to say earlier. You have to really desperately try to put the words together the way that they did, instead of just having a simple definition, which could have been candidate two hired Fusion GPS, right, or U.S. person one to hire source one to go get the information. That was really simple to explain. The courts would have understood it easily, and I think the courts would have, at that point, well, they should have rejected it. I'm not sure they would have, but they should have.
4 Republican appointees, judges, federal district court judges, 4.
Yeah, I don't blame the judges. I think the judges were misled.
You don't think they should have asked more questions? I mean, if I saw,
well, it's hard to
if I saw that that was a prominent, forget saying if it was the majority of the case to open up this warrant, but if I saw political opposition, I would have asked more questions. Who is this political opposition?
Well,
do you know who it is?
And sadly, we don't. Yeah, you should have asked that, but also sadly, we don't have any transcripts, so we don't believe there are any transcripts from those hearings.
The left is saying, and some neoconservatives saying, you and your committee have done an enormous amount of damage to the FISA process, that putting all this out there, pushing this issue as it is, will ultimately compromise our national security, because people are not going to be willing to put themselves out to give information to keep America safe. You knew that they were going to say that, and indeed
they've been saying that forever. So remember when we first, we got to call it how it is. When we first were writing the memo, they said, oh my God, he's going to destroy the whole process. He's going to disclose sources and methods. This is the end of the whole process. Did that happen? No. And in fact, once we released the memo, what did they do? They said, oh my God, he took 400 pages and got it down to 3 pages. Well, yeah, because it was a memo, and we were under strict kind of confines to try to keep it as short as possible.
And by the way, the redactions in this documents, they're significant, and it does discuss prior investigations, however, into Carter Page. They've been watching him for some time. So doesn't that indicate that there was information on Page? He was meeting these conferences, had some contact with government officials. They had ample reason, along with Papadopoulos, to open up an investigation. That's what your critics are saying.
Carter Page.
It's a foreign agent?
Was not a foreign agent. And what did the FBI do back in 2014 and 15? They went and interviewed the guy. That would have been the place to start. You don't open up an investigation into a campaign, okay, and then turn around and get a FISA warrant so that you can go in and grab a lot of information that had to have come from the campaign. I mean, this is how back in 13 and 14 they ran an investigation the way it's supposed to be run. And don't forget, another thing that wasn't told to the court, they did not want to tell the court that Carter Page actually had cooperated with the FBI in the past, and that he had also, the Russians didn't even want to recruit him because they thought he was an idiot. Those were the Russians' words, not anybody else's. The Russians said that. So there were a lot of reasons to believe that Carter Page was not acting as some type of foreign agent.
What's next for you on this?
We want the president to take care of the rest of these redactions so that there's full transparency and sunlight for everyone to see. And then we've sent 42 names over to Chairman Gowdy and Chairman Goodlatte, and we believe those interviews will be starting soon.
Congressman, thanks so much for stopping by.